Our poems are singing in your rings of stone. I'll keep the flame in your sky, my love, as above, so below. Constellations woven in your name, they hold the space for the souls that came to play your earthly game. I am the stars that are the ring that holds your heart, my love. You are the gold, as below, so above. Rests of my notes, nest of my rose, heart of my soul, as above, so below. Maia, you brought your starlight through a cave on earth, a sacred site for the baby's birth. Let the harmony be heard. Seven sisters clustered in the sky, a sacred sight for the wary eye. We celebrate new life. La da 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 da. Need some more lyrics. Working on them. I wrote that whole Gaia verse long ago about the marriage of heaven and earth, about Gaia and Uranus, especially in their days of pure love. And now that our baby Maya has been born, I'm adding a verse about Maya. Maya was named for the mother of Hermes, so M-A-I-A, the Greek, maybe Maia in the Old Greek, and I wonder if it's the root of Maria, but we hear this so often, like, you know, Maria, Maia, Maya, Ma, mater, mother, right? Mar, ocean, the waters, all of these things. This morning I woke up to do some work, but I decided to crawl up onto the bathtub so I could look out of this tiny window that from our house allows me to see at this time of the year in the morning time the Pleiades. And Maia, mother of Hermes, was one of those seven sisters, one of those daughters of Atlas and Pleione that we call the Pleiades. And so there's a star of the Pleiades called Maia. And so I went to go look at Maya's namesake in the sky this morning, and there was the crescent moon. And I should have known because the moon today will move from tropical Taurus to tropical Gemini. And in our day and age, the Pleiades now mark the gateway between those two signs. So whenever you see the moon with the Pleiades, that means moon is moving from Taurus to Gemini. If you see Jupiter with the Pleiades, Jupiter is moving from Taurus to Gemini, which actually recently happened. So I decided, having seen that moon Pleiades conjunction, that a fun thing to do would be to grab the dog and hop in the van and head down to a park that is to the west of us, so I could see moon nurturing the Pleiades above our house. And when I got down there, I noticed that the red light in our bedroom was on, which means that Mama, my beloved Scorpiana, was up nurturing our baby Maia. Maia was having an early breakfast or a very late for dinner or whatever that's called in the middle of the night when baby wakes Mama up. And I really just, in this moment of like witnessing the moon, in a sense, like feeding the Pleiades right above our house as Mama was feeding our baby. Maia, named for one of these Pleiadian stars, I just felt so much gratitude that our baby was born to such a loving mommy. And then I knew if I waited for a bit, and I did, that I would see Jupiter rise. And when Jupiter became clear to my terrestrial eyes, Jupiter was right above the western side of our house, really the southwestern side of our house, which is where Koa's room is. Koa's on his boy, who's about to turn 9. And through the zoom lens, I saw this beautiful sight of our house, moonlight reflecting off the solar panels. At this point, the red light had gone off, and so I was really sending blessings for mom and baby to get another deep sleep before the day began. And so it was moon, this Taurus moon reflecting Cancer light, reminding me of the beauty of nurturing, the embodiment of feelings. Moon Pleiades, moon Maia above mom and Maia, with Jupiter above Koa's room. And the zoom let me see 2 of Jupiter's moons, who are Ganymede and Callisto. And especially Callisto will be one of the stars of our starry stories I would like to share with you. Jupiter, one of these 2, a moving star. Mercury would be another one, though he's not currently playing the part, I guess I'd say. Maia of the Pleiades. And, well, moon always brings our feels to the starry stories, doesn't she? So, where to begin? Maybe I'll begin with Callisto. So Callisto, it said, was a nymph here on Earth, and Zeus, Jupiter, saw her beauty and came down to Earth, and they had a dance. And his wife, Jupiter's wife, Juno, or Zeus's wife, Hera, was really not happy about this, and she lashed out at this woman on Earth, Callisto, and turned her to a bear. Now their child was born, and his name is Arcas, for whom Arcadia in Greece is named. And Arcas grew up motherless, in a sense, for his mother had been turned to a bear in those Arcadian mountains. But there was a mother who nurtured him, and her name was Maia. Now, I should just say that when Arcas grew up as a great hunter, warrior, he saw a bear in the woods, and the bear reached out her arms to give him a hug and said, "I love you, son." But of course, all he heard was roar. And fortunately, before the arrow was launched, Jupiter, who saw this scene, threw Mama Bear into the heavens as the great bear that you may know as Ursa, or Ursa Major, the big bear of the heavens, 2 of whom stars point to Polaris, North Star. And in these latitudes where I reside, the northern hemisphere sky, I live the same distance north of Earth's equator as Athens, Greece. The bear is circumpolar, they say. All stars really are circumpolar. They all circumambulate the pole, or the world tree, our rotational axis. But the astronomers today use this term circumpolar for stars that never set. And it's like that with stars of the bear from this point of view. It's said actually that this was this curse of Hera, that she asked Oceanus, the titan of the oceans, to never let the bears set, so that they can never quench their thirst. Kind of a mean thing, and Hera gets such a bad rap in these old starry stories, you know. So the little bear, Ursa Minor, whose tail is Polaris, some say this is Arcas, that when Zeus threw Callisto into the heavens as Big Bear, he threw Arcas, her son, now traveling with her in the heavens as the little bear. But some say that Arcus is the star Arcturus, which is the bright star of a constellation that used to have that name. Now the constellation is called Bootes, the herdsman. And I see Arcturus, the bright, beautiful, super orange to our eyes, red giant star, as Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer, who is at the end of the train of deer stars that are pulling Santa's sleigh. That is an asterism you may know as the Big Dipper, but in many cultures is called the wain, the wagon. And Arctus is called the bear tender, because you can follow the arc of the Dipper's handle to Arcturus, and Arcturus kind of goes and he pulls the Dipper around Polaris during the night. It's a beautiful thing to behold. We can say follow the arc to Arcturus and speed on to Spica. That's like kind of the old expression these days. People often teach follow the arc to Arcturus and spike to Spica. And those stars are actually come to life a bit at the time of my daughter's entrance, which was on Father's Day, June 16th, 2024. Because the moon at that time was last days of tropical Libra, is today where we find the shaft of wheat that the priestess of the heavens holds, this star known as Chitra in some traditions, or Spica or Spica. In our day and age, 24 degrees tropical Libra. Interestingly, the same celestial longitude as Arcturus. These two Bohemian stars or magical stars of Mercury, Arcturus and Spica, live at the same longitudes, but just like Seattle and Richmond, California, where I used to and now reside respectively, are the same terrestrial longitude. They're very far apart on Earth because latitude matters too. And Arcturus and Spica are very far apart in the heavens. They're about 32 degrees away from one another, though they're both at, in our day and age, 24 tropical Libra. And so there was this kind of bonus thing that happened when our baby Maia was born, which is that her moon was aligned to those degrees of Spica. The moon's very close to Spica, the shaft of wheat, but it was also in the same celestial longitude, or very nearby this line that we can draw up to Arcturus, or Arcus, this child of Callisto. Now, from my experience this morning, I guess Callisto actually comes into the scene as well, because she was one of the forest sisters of Artemis, of Diana. And actually, I was looking at this crescent moon, right? Diana's bow. However, we usually use that term for the young moon. And many say the virgin moon, or the maiden moon, which we find every month after the moon-sun conjunction in the sunset west, the young moon. And that when we see this waning crescent before the sun rises in the east, that is Hecate's bow, the bow of the crone, the wise moon, who is preparing for her next journey into the underworld to be renewed. And that underworld, interestingly, is actually the light of the sun. And that's going to come around once again in our tale when we get to the birth of Hermes in a cave on Earth. So those lyrics I sang before, Maia, you brought your starlight through a cave on Earth, a sacred site for the baby's birth. Let the harmony be heard. That's about the birth of Maia, which I witnessed. It was the most magical, amazing thing, and what a gift to have such a warrior goddess mother who so courageously, bravely, and beautifully pushed through those surges. It was quite a magical thing. But there's also the truth that Hermes, who is the son of Maia and Zeus, was born in a cave on Mount Kyllini in Arcadia. I want to say one more thing though about Diana, or Artemis, right? So she had chosen this virgin. Now, very importantly, virgin does not mean celibate. It means unmarried, and it doesn't mean unmarried. It just means that we are full of our light. We know who we are. We stand strong on our own, and therefore we don't need the strength of another at our sides. And being full of our own light allows us actually not to need to bring another to us to spark our flame, or need to bring another to the light. It helps us see the light in the other, so we can come together in balanced partnership. That sounds a bit like Libra, yes? But Artemis, Diana, had chosen the path of the celibate. And this was true for her whole crew, her like forest sisters, the daughters of the hunt. So there's stories like, into a stag to be hunted by his friends. But there's also the story, sadly, of banishment of Callisto. So as the tale goes, Zeus, who saw the beauty of Callisto, took the form of his daughter, Artemis. And Callisto thought she was invited by the great leader of her forest sister pack, the goddess, the great goddess of the moon, Artemis, into a loving embrace. But it turns out that she was deceived by Zeus in disguise. And so when she started showing this baby who was growing within, she was banished from this forest sister tribe of celibates. So like a pretty heavy story, and there's so many heavy stories about Zeus's meanderings here on Earth. But you know, they did bring to us goddesses like Artemis and guides like Apollo, moon and sun, who were born of Leto, and bring to us beings like Hermes, Mercury, who was born of Maia. So Maia, one of the daughters of Atlas and Pleione, one of the Pleiades, chose to leave her heavenly abode and live a humble life on Earth in Mount Selene. Please tell me how to pronounce this. Mount Kaleni, in Greece, in Arcadia. Jupiter saw her there, though, and as Ovid writes, away from the ever-watchful gaze of his wife, Hera, Zeus came to Maia's cave, and shortly thereafter, a young baby came forth, a very magical, curious, genius baby named Hermes. Hermes, on the first day of his life, seemed to have invented that whole, like, pad the crib with blankets to make it look like the baby's sleeping there. Well, he snuck out of Maia's cave from the darkness into the light of day. Or maybe the light of night. Anyway, very inventive he, and the first thing that he created was a drum, which he sourced by alleviating a tortoise of its shell. And he's drumming around. Then he's drumming along to some flute that he hears in the distance. Now this was the flute of Apollo, who was actually serving a sentence as a mortal here on Earth, or at least in disguise as a mortal, as a humble herdsman. Apollo, in his anger because his child Asclepius was struck down by Zeus, for Asclepius, trained by Chiron as the greatest healer, had crossed the line when he brought a human back from the dead, and this could not be. And so he found his end, and this very much angered Apollo, so he struck back at Zeus, fractured Zeus's thunderbolts, right? And so this isn't cool. And so he was punished by his father to serve this sentence as a year here on Earth as a a shepherd or as a herdsman for an earthly king. And he wasn't really into it, you know. So there's this day where he just has his eyes closed because he's really into his jam. You know, Apollo's this beautiful musician, right? And he has this flute and he's playing, and he doesn't even hear the rhythm of this turtle drum that a baby is playing as he first walks the land. And he walks upon this scene of a herdsman lost in his jam and a whole herd of cows that the child decides to steal. And so he walks the cows away, and he decides that looking down upon their hoof prints that this won't do, because he'll clearly be found. Somebody could just follow their tracks and his. And so this genius kid does this genius thing where he walks the cows backwards in their own hoof prints, and he walks backwards in his. Then he covers his feet and their hooves with bark, so that they will leave no trail as they walk in a different direction. And they walk back to Maia's cave. And indeed, Apollo, having opened his eyes coming out of that sweet jam and finding no cows around, freaked out. And so he followed the hoof prints, wondered about these tiny human prints next to them. And then suddenly they just disappeared. The track ended. That, of course, was this place where Mercury stationed retrograde. Oh, I'm sorry. Where Mercury decided to walk the cows backwards in their own hoof prints. But, you know, Apollo knows truth, and he has skills. So he cast lots, which told him to walk this way, where he found 2 pelts of his cattle, 2 hides, hanging on this hillside next to the entrance of a cave. And so in Apollo goes, and he finds these wood nymphs there. And everybody knows wood nymphs don't steal cows. Certainly do not butcher them. You know this, right? Of course you do. And so, of course, he goes right to the crib knowing that it must have been the kid. And he picks this kid up and he's like, look, Jack, why'd you do this to my cows? And where's the rest of them? And the wood nymphs are like, oh, freaking out. What are you doing? It's just a baby. He stole my cows. Didn't you? Didn't you? And they're like, he's a little baby. He can't walk. He can't even talk. Didn't you steal my cows? And Hermes goes, no, I didn't do it. He's like, you can't talk, huh? Yeah, he can walk too, and he can steal cows. And where are the rest of them? And why did you kill these 2? And just as he's kind of shaking the baby down, this instrument falls through the air and hits the ground, and Apollo hears this beautiful harmony. Let the harmony be heard, you see. Because on this first day of Hermes' life, having alleviated the tortoise from its shell, he then found some strings made of cow's gut to create the first guitar. It was a harp. It was actually a lyre. Some say it was named after Hermes, who told this lie because he denied the truth that he had stolen the cows. But when Apollo heard that chord, you see, this was the first time that harmony was created on a single instrument. I mean, we could sit with our flute and another flute player and play a couple different notes and create an interval, or bring in a third and have 3 notes and make a chord, you know. But here we were, strums. Some say 3 strings on this lyre, some say 7, 1 for each of the wandering stars that we know as the planetas: Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, Sun, Venus, Mercury, and Moon. And Apollo just completely forgot his anger, hearing this utter beauty, this harmony. What is this? He asked the kid. What did you make? He's like, oh, that thing? I don't know. Call it what you wish. Do you want it? And Apollo said, yes, I would do anything. I would give anything for this. He said, well, what do you have to give? What would you take? And Hermes says, you know, I thought that I disguised the footprints really well and the hoof prints of the cows. How did you find me? And Apollo said, that was a really cool trick that you played, but I cast lots. I threw bones. And Mercury's like, what, Hermes, what is that? It was divination. It's a craft where we can learn the truth that hides from our eyes. And Hermes says, well, why don't you give me that? And you can have this instrument and call it whatever you wish. And that deal was struck, as Apollo struck many beautiful chords on this first harp that he named Lyre. It's now in the heavens, and some say it's Apollo's harp, some say Hermes, some say Orpheus, another student of Chiron's. So everything seemed okay. Apollo was okay with the death of a couple cows from his herds. Hermes now told him that the rest of the group was just around the hillside, and he would find them grazing on green grass there. But Apollo couldn't help but asking, you really needed 2 cows for these 7 strings? And Hermes said, oh, no. They came from one. It's important that the strings come from the same being. And I give much gratitude to that cow for helping harmony come forth. And Apollo said, but I saw 2 hides on the hillside. And Hermes said, yes, I sacrificed the other one. Apollo's like, what do you mean? What is sacrifice? So this is another thing that Hermes created on the first day of his life. And please don't kill the messenger, all right? Wasn't me. It was my great guide. He said, well, I figured the gods might be angry that I killed a cow simply to source strings for this instrument. So I sacrificed the other to the gods to hopefully appease them and to offer my gratitude for life and this cow's life here on earth, which seems kind of like a weird thing, but so is Hermes, He said, so I cut the meat into 12 equal portions for the gods. And Apollo's like, oh, I see. Wait, 12? There's 11 of us. So Hermes says, well, I ate mine. And that was it. Apollo's like, no, kid. Stealing, that's one thing, and it's terrible. Lying about it, that's another thing, and it's terrible. But now you've crossed a line. You have blasphemed. You called yourself a god. This can't be. You're going to go upstairs to see the big guy. And so Apollo takes Hermes, and he brings him to Olympus to consult with Zeus, with Jupiter, He says, Father, this baby, this little thing, stole my cows. He killed 2 of them to create an instrument. And then he lied about stealing them when I asked. And I was going to let that slide. But Father, he called himself a god. Zeus goes, is this true, son? And Apollo's like, yeah, I just told you the story. And he's like, no, is this true, son? Looking at Hermes. And so this is the moment when Apollo found out that he had yet another half-brother. And Hermes said, yes, father, I did take these cows. And yes, when I asked, I said I did not, because I thought it was kind of funny. He's like, but did you call yourself a god? And he said, yeah, father, but I'm your child, and I have skills, bro. Put me in, coach. He's like, look, I'm really quick. I'm super genius. I not only made this on the first day of my life, and then Zeus beholds the lyre. He's like, but I traded it to this guy for divination. I know astrology. I know the tarot. I can cast lots. I can read the fates. And this guy gave it to me for cow guts on a tortoise shell. I'm good with commerce, Dad. And by the way, I'm better with animals than this idiot. I took his cows and walked them backwards in their own hoof prints. Ingenious, right? He's like, I'm fast, Dad. Put me in. So Zeus says, oh, I can see these skills that you have, and I'd love to have you on the team, but you have to promise you'll never lie like that again. Hermes says, "You would have me tell the whole truth?" And Zeus, "No, no, no." But when asked, "You cannot lie." And Hermes agrees to these conditions, and he's issued his winged helm and his winged sandals, yes. And now there are 12. Oh, 12 signs, 7 planets. Interesting. At least that can be seen moving against the backdrop of the fixed stars, these wandering ones called Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, Sun, Venus, Mercury, Moon. This, the Chaldean order, it's called, of the slowest Saturn to the fastest Moon. Now, every year, that wandering star called Sun, the star of ours, find its way to the Pleiades side. In our day and age, this happens in late May. And by the way, I'm currently parked in front of my house on May Road in May Valley, Richmond, California. And I probably shouldn't give my address, but look, it's 3684. 3 plus 6, 9. 8 plus 4, 12. These are numbers that excite me. 9 and 12, 21, which is reduces to 3. If you do similar math to June 16th, 2024, and to November 3rd, 1987, you find 3, the number of the Empress, and this is the soul number, some traditions say, of both our baby Maia and her mother, Scorpiana. Maybe I'm revealing too much. Oh, I'm a 2. Anyway, so May, the month, which is the time when we know Sun moves from tropical Taurus to tropical Gemini, May is named for Maia, one of the 7 sisters, one of the stars of the Pleiades. And in our day and age, again, the Pleiades mark the gateway between tropical Taurus and tropical Gemini. So like this morning when I saw Moon at the Pleiades side, that means Moon is moving from Taurus to Gemini. It's a great gift to have this beautiful cluster. Another one of the Bohemian stars of Hermes, an entire cluster. Some use Alcyone, the brightest of the 7, for that Bohemian star, but some say it's the entire cluster, including Maia. So when I see Moon Pleiades, I know Moon is moving from Taurus to Gemini. When I see Sun Pleiades, oh, you know what? I can't. Because of course, every year when the Sun is with the Pleiades are gone. If you go back to Hesiod's work and days, he talks about planting and sowing with the settings and risings of different zodiacal stars. Now, the stars of the zodiac, just like the planets, they rise and set every day. But when he talks about the annual setting, the annual rising, these are the times like what we call the heliacal setting of the Pleiades. So here are the Pleiades, which in our day and age mark the cusp of tropical Taurus and Gemini. In fact, Maia processed, having spent more than 2,000 years in tropical Taurus, to tropical Gemini in June of 2023. So right at the cusp. So think about when the Sun ingresses Sagittarius on the opposite side of the year, that means the Sun is opposite the Pleiades. That's called the acronychal rising of the Pleiades. Pleiades rising at sunset. This is actually the great star image that Hawaiians use to align the moon phase calendar to the annual calendar to kind of recalibrate. And the great New Year festival, the Mali festival, happens at this time, Makaliki. So at that time, when the Sun's ingressing Sagittarius, the Sun is opposite the Pleiades. The Pleiades rise at sunset. They culminate in the middle of the night. They set at sunrise. I probably need to reverse my hands for the reverse camera. I don't know. But think about like 3 months later, now the moon's coming into tropical Pisces and it's squaring the Pleiades. Sorry, the Sun coming to tropical Pisces, squaring the Pleiades. And that means the Pleiades are on high at sunset. Maybe I should do this. I don't know. The camera thing goes. And then think about a month later. So Sun coming into Aries Okay, now it's 60 degrees or sextile the Pleiades. So the sun sets and the Pleiades are there in the west. And a month later, sun coming into tropical Taurus, 30 degrees semi-sextile the Pleiades. So the sun sets and the Pleiades are now low on the horizon. Then every day the sun gets closer and closer. Well, now even there's a time when the sun sets and the Pleiades are above the ground, but you can't see them because the beams of the sun extend 15 degrees on either side, and visibly sometimes more. It depends on where you're looking from, which star you're looking towards in this. All right. But basically, there's a time every year when the Pleiades disappear as evening stars into the fire of the sun as the sun is chasing them down. And then the sun aligns with the Pleiades, and that today is in late May because the Pleiades mark the gateway between tropical Taurus and Gemini. And then about 15, 20 days later, the Pleiades are seen reborn, rising as morning stars, right? So for me, this is Maia, the star of the Pleiades, living in a cave. The cave literally being the beams of the sun. And this is an annual event. When the sun aligns with the Pleiades, they disappear for about 40 days and 40 nights. And I was able to first see them on June 15th, the day before Maia's birth, through a zoom lens. And I knew where to look thanks to Jupiter and Capella, the goat star, Amalthea, who was the nursemaid for baby Zeus when he was hidden away in a cave on Mount Ida in Crete, so his father Kronos or Saturn wouldn't eat him as he had the baby's siblings. Heavy stories in these myths, but they have so much to say about the world without and within, above and below. So yeah, I think it was June 15th, maybe the 14th, where I was able to see for the first time the Pleiades as morning stars this year, thanks to my zoom lens and thanks to Jupiter and Capella, who told me where to look. But it was June 17th, the day after my baby's birth, when I woke up early to go to my morning star spots, which is about a 10-minute drive away, so I can record the morning sky for Maia that was most similar to her own. I did sneak out a couple of times during her mother's labor the night before to take a few photos and images of the sky that I look forward to sharing with her if she's interested in seeing them later in her life. I got a file going, as you might expect. So Maia was a name that came when An and I first conceived. There were a couple of miscarriages before Maia came through. Interesting. As I said that, this top just popped open from the pressure, but reminding us that water is life. And this gift of the heart and the rivers of the fields that help remind us of what we're doing here. For feeling opens healing, opens knowing, opens growing. And as we grow, the all that is grows. Thank you. So we're very nervous about Maia coming through, and she's made it, and she's amazing and healthy, and things are going well. Beautifully. And I have so much gratitude that she was born to such a loving mother and such an amazing brother. Now, Koa was scheduled to have a different name. He was born in Hawaii. You know what an amazing truth is? The planet that represents her brother in Maia's nativity, if I held her up in the moment of her birth to that planet in the sky, that planet goes all the way around the world and comes right through Makawao in Maui, which is where her brother Koa was born. In fact, it goes within about 10 feet of a tree there, a koa tree, under which his placenta, I should say their placenta, Koa and Anna's, is buried. I mean, that is mind-blowing reality in local space astrology. She also has the planet that represents my sister going right to my sister's house, which is due west of us in Marin. It's like impossible. So anyway, Koa was going to have a different name, and then late in Anna's pregnancy, the name Koa came in as a middle name. Koa is a sacred tree in Hawaii. It's also a name that means strength and courage. The tree is very strong. But it became clear in the last week of her pregnancy that Koa was meant to be his first name. And Anna knew that we would receive a name like this for our daughter. And so there was some resistance to the name Maia. The two babies before her, they had like placeholder names, Poppy and Bay. But Maya never did. So I had hoped that those babies before, if born girl, would also have this name Maya. It's just been with me for a bit. And I saw like really powerful images, especially with Maya. Like the first day that Anna and I went to birthing class, we missed the first week of 6. When we showed up in the second week, the moon was exactly conjunct the Pleiades, exactly conjunct Maya, just as it was this morning. So that was actually 2 moon orbits ago, 2 sidereal months ago, about 55 days ago. Okay, 54 and 2/3, but who's counting? I am. 54 and 2/3. Wow, through progression, that would be like a Saros, a third Saros, the tri-Saros. Anyway, sorry, I get lost. So like there were times like during Maya's prenatal eclipse, which was that solar eclipse that we actually witnessed here, and we had ceremony with Koa. We had a really beautiful ceremony, a burning ceremony. Maya, Anna and I were very much focused on our fears around another miscarriage and whatnot. And I spent some time kind of clearing the energy in our room where the baby would be born here on May Road in May Valley. And I sat and asked to hear her name, and I heard nothing. And for me, that's because her name had already come in, and it was Maya. And Anna wasn't so sure at first, and Koa definitely was not, because there's 3 different Mayas that are at his school. I think all 3 are spelled M-A-Y-A. Maybe only 2. Maybe one is M-A-I-A, like our baby Maya, named after this 7th sister, this Pleiadian star. But it just kind of became clear. It wasn't even official until we were holding Maya in our arms, and I took some pictures and was like, hey, can I send these out to our family to let everybody know that baby's cool and it's here and safe, and I would like to send her name. Is it Maya? And Anna said, yeah. We're actually still sitting with the middle name. We think we received something when we were last in Hawaii with Koa, and we're just not sure. We're not even sure what to do about last name, and supposedly the state would like us to have that information entered within 10 days of her birth, and we've missed that. But I guess you get a year before they just call her baby girl. And I'm pretty sure Maya is already entered. I don't know. We got to sort that out. So there's all of these myths. Now I just want to share the astronomy of that story I told of Hermes' first birth. So Maya goes into the cave. That's the annual conjunction of Sun with the Pleiades. They go into the cave and then they're reborn as morning stars. Now every 12 years, Zeus, Jupiter, comes to visit. Well, every 11.86 years, but who's counting? I am. So every 12 years, we get Earth, Sun, Jupiter, Pleiades. Now in some cycles, and it wasn't true in this one, Mercury then pops out as a visible evening star. That has actually just happened. I've been watching Mercury the last few days. Thank you. The last few days in the sunset west. I highly recommend you go out there and lend your gaze after sunset to the northwest and find the messenger looking back at you. And soon, by the way, Venus will share her reborn evening star light too. And by the way, I see Diane here and Discerning Light and others, Shauna, who are members of the School of Astrology's Constellations. I will be teaching a class this Saturday at 9 a.m. Pacific time on the phases of Venus, and very much focused on celebrating this rebirthing of Venus that will likely happen next week, maybe in the last degree of Cancer, maybe in the first degrees of tropical Leo, which is where these current Venus cycle began. So look for Mercury as an evening star, look for Venus as an evening star. Now with Mercury as an evening star, he'll become more and more visible, and then he'll become less as he then stations retrograde and dives back into the beams of the sun. Okay, so Mercury retrograde, that's Mercury walking backwards, right? But Mercury walking the cows and their hoof prints backwards, that's a Mercury retrograde with the bull, who now resides in Gemini, not in Cancer. Mercury's actually now with the twins, Castor and Pollux, which is a beautiful thing to behold. And there's so much like brotherly and family love in that. All right. And it's worth a gaze. Castor and Pollux are now having their annual time in the cave, going under the beams of the sun, having their set in the west, as they will soon then be reborn as morning stars, and the new cycle for them begins. All right. But so every now and then, after we get this Maia going into the cave, Sun conjunct Maia, Jupiter coming there, which is only every 12 years, we will also have Mercury pop out. And you see the Pleiades are in the back of the heavenly bowl. And so Mercury then, as a visible evening star, that's Mercury coming out of the cave, as in like the first day of his life. He then goes retrograde back into the cave, and then he's reborn as a morning star. And what happens then is the sun has passed Jupiter by. So we have Pleiades, Jupiter, Mercury, and the sun. Sun, of course, Apollo, bringing Mercury up to Olympus to see Zeus. To be like, this kid's a liar, and he blasphemed. And Zeus is like, now he's a god. Like, put him in, my great guide, Hermes. Right. So that's like the myth. And in this particular cycle, Mercury was not necessarily playing his part. Mercury is free to play many roles and do whatever she wishes. Amazing being, this thrice great. But this is a time where not only did Maia and the Pleiades slowly are moving from Taurus to Gemini, so the sun is aligned with them in May, this month that is named for Maia, and again, we live on May Road in May Valley, but Jupiter is there, as he is only every 12 years, okay, 11.86, and so all the stars were aligning. And then to see this morning, Moon, Diana, with Maia, literally above, I went down the park down there so I could take a photo of them. Check out my Instagram or Facebook page if you'd like to see it. They're all posted in constellations too. Above our house, as Mama was feeding Maia, the moon was feeding Maia in the heavens, and then Zeus, Jupiter, rose right above Koa's room, and the zoom let me see both Ganymede, the young boy, and Callisto, the mother of Arcus, who was raised in the Arcadian mountains by Maia. It's just like all of these myths coming alive, like in real time. All right. And so it's really time for me to get inside and to love my baby for a few minutes before readings begin. Hey, if you want to support the work of a new father who is somewhat stressed out about providing and all those things, you can offer a tip at geminibrett.com/donate. You can book a session at geminibrett.com/sessions. I've just come out of paternity leave and I'm back to work in that regard. You'll find that my readings are not all offered sliding scale. Please give what you can. Many of you here are supporting the work and also are along for the journey and learning so much along with me, like Astro Herbalism taught by Amala Hall, Astro Embodiment taught by Alyssa Luna, Astro Tarot taught by Phelan Shiva, a Moon Dream Group led by Carolyn Link, and I teach a class every month on Earth astrology, astronomy, in constellations, and you can learn more about that. We're still offering the maiden voyage price of only $16 a month. At geminibrett.com/constellations. Sign up for the year. It's only $160. But if you choose monthly, you can cancel anytime. So you can get the coming Venus phases and celebration of the rebirth of Venus, where, by the way, we'll look at many charts of members of the community live and reflect upon how the Venus cycle works for them. That's this Saturday. What is it? July 6th, I believe. 9 a.m. Pacific time, and we'll go probably 9 to 1. Maia will probably come in and help us at some point. So geminibrett.com/constellations to sign up. Come on and join me for this amazing Venus phases class. You're going to love it. Diane says, dude, just incredible. I hear you. It was so wild this morning. All right, I got to get to work. Big love to y'all. Thank you so much for the present of your presence and for tuning in and for supporting what I do. It is so gratefully appreciated, especially now that a new baby has arrived on Earth. See you in space, friends.